Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. As you can see, we're on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise with Captain Kirk. And let me make some acknowledgments first before we get started. We have Joshua Hall, and he is standing between Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. Did I say that right?
You did.
Yeah. And then Jack Catmull, right?
Yep.
He's on my immediate left.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tristin Redearth, and finally Rowan in the back. I don't know your last name.
Lemus.
Lemus.
Yeah.
Rowan Lemus, and he is standing next to Spock. All right, let's have some trivia, guys.
All right.
Who can name all these characters, starting on the left of your screen? Let's let you do that first.
Spock. Spock, and then the guy over there, Sulu, and then right, I think, and then Captain Kirk, and then that's all I know right now.
So Sulu, Spock, Uhura, McCoy, Chekhov, Scotty, and who's the nurse? Let's just call her Nurse for now.
Okay, well that's close. You recognize that theme song, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, try it again.
Oh, me? Yeah, I think, I grew up on the Next Generation, so I only know Spock and Captain Kirk and Sulu.
Pretty good TV show. Yeah, over my childhood.
All right, for the ones that you didn't name, like Nurse Chapel.
Nurse
Chapel.
That you didn't name her, and you didn't name Lieutenant Uhura on the back.
I did name
Oh, you
Lieutenant
did?
Uhura. I didn't
Okay.
use her title, however.
Oh, well,
No,
okay.
well,
And and also Mr. Sulu. I didn't hear Mr. Sulu's name mentioned.
I mentioned Sulu, and so did Jack.
I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
Oh, although on Jeopardy, I think I would have lost the points if I hadn't said Lieutenant Uhura.
Probably.
Remember
Probably. Yeah,
the
they're very
contestant who
very
said-
picky about that.
There was a contestant who said Gangsters Paradise instead of Gangstas
Ah.
Paradise, and he lost a few thousand for that.
Yeah, well, that's the way that game was. You know the history of Jeopardy, don't you? Do you know who the creator of Jeopardy was?
No.
He was a talk show host named Merv Griffin.
Ah.
This Merv Griffin was famous probably in the late 50s, early 60s. He had a talk show like Johnny Carson or Stephen Colbert, but it was more primitive. And Merv Griffin was the creator of Wheel of Fortune, Pat Sajak, and he was also the creator of Jeopardy. And of course, Jeopardy is probably the #1 game in the world.
Oh yeah.
And it was very primitive, the history of Jeopardy. You know how they have the computers, like when you get the, the amount of money, like say $100, $200, and so on?
Yeah.
Well, they have those cardboard boxes that literally flipped over when Jeopardy first came on.
Yeah.
And it was only $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 for the game,
Yeah.
And then Double Jeopardy was $20, $30, $40, $60, and $100. So it was really primitive. And it was always funny to watch those little cardboard boxes that flipped over.
Wow.
And they didn't have Alex Trebek back then. They had a guy named Art Fleming. He was the original host of Jeopardy. So it was, you see Jeopardy is growing because it's all computerized. This is way before you guys weren't even dot your mama's eye. All right, let me start with you. Let's see. You're Jack, right?
Yes.
And you in high school?
I am.
What grade are you in?
I'm a sophomore in Hellgate High School.
How do you like it there?
I like it. The little community's good. I don't think there's a lot of bullying going on right now.
How are the women?
Okay, that's the first question you have about it.
It was a natural question.
Come on. I attempted.
I apologize.
And
Please
it
continue.
went down.
I see.
That's the thing with Star Trek, gentlemen.
Yeah.
You recognize it?
Oh,
we do. Yeah.
I'll do it again in case you missed it.
It's a melody of preeminent whimsy.
There you go. The theme of Star Trek.
And I think all of us feel honored to stand on board the Enterprise
Yeah, I
with
know.
Spock, Captain Kirk.
That's right.
pretty cool place.
All right, now, so Jack, we've asked you, and what grade are you in?
I'm a
Tristen?
freshman in college.
You go to university?
University of Montana. Yeah.
You go. What are you studying? What's your major?
Composition and music.
Oh, good for you. Do you have a favorite composer?
Oh, I don't know.
All right,
Well,
let's test your composing knowledge. Let's see if you would know this song here.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, let me do it again. Don't recognize it.
I'm guessing it's contemporary
Yes.
from the style. You know, the piano, I know it's not Elton John, but
It
kinda-
is.
Oh, it is.
Oh, it's
Oh, okay.
Robot Man or something.
It's called Your Song.
Your song.
Remember this part
Okay.
here, I'll do this part here.
Funny.
I thought you would have got it.
This feeling inside. Yeah,
Yeah, oh, Your Song, Elton John. Okay, well, that's good. You're taking composing. Good for you.
thank you.
You'll probably be another Leonard Bernstein one day, huh?
I love Leonard Bernstein. He's one of my favorites.
Wait a minute, how do we pronounce this man's name? I'm confused.
Bernstein or Bernstein?
I say Bernstein.
I think it is Bernstein. Well,
I don't
some
know.
said Steen, but
I said Bernstein earlier, Scott.
now you know
he
there were other
corrected me.
famous composers too, but before him, are you familiar with William Toscanini?
No, no.
Okay, how about oh my goodness, how to get my we'll get back to the composers.
Okay.
Now let's talk to you. What grade are you in, young man?
I'm actually graduated. I was homeschooled, but I am still graduated, and that is more complex, but we need not get into that.
Well, no, in homeschool. My sister homeschooled her daughter, and when they compared her grades to the grades in the children in grade school or what is it, high school at that time, my niece scored the highest, being homeschooled. And I don't know, were you homeschooled the entire 4 years, like in high school and all of that?
I was since the 3rd grade, actually.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, I had an antinomian childhood, but it worked out for the best in the end.
All right.
And I'll be going to school in 2019.
Which school are you going to?
I'm still deciding. There are a few that have my interest.
Like what?
I want
Any
to
examples.
the University of Columbia, perhaps Austin, Texas. I want to study Persian literature, Near Eastern studies.
Oh, good for you.
I've studied Arabic, and I've done quite a bit of translation from Arabic into English.
Can you speak any Arabic?
Right now?
Yeah.
Sure. Let me quote something.
Go ahead.
يا ابن الروح في أول القول ابن قلبا جيدا حسنا منيرا لتملك ملكا دائما بقيا أزلا قريبا.
Okay, you had to tell us what he said.
I was quoting from Baha'u'llah's hidden words. O son of spirit, my first counsel is this: possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that thine may be sovereignty ancient, imperishable, and everlasting.
Okay, yeah, I see you as maybe working for the United Nations one day, maybe. I don't know.
thank you.
Am I being a little presumptuous there, or?
I actually hope that I might be a professor at a good university.
Good for you.
Oh,
And
nice.
Rowan, what about you?
I'm going to Hellgate. I'm almost done, actually, 4 more months until I get out of high school.
All right, cool. Well, let's have fun, guys. Let's. I'll play a little piece of Painted Black. Are you familiar with Painted Black?
Yeah.
Mick Jagger's
Indeed.
Rolling Stone. I'll give you my version of it. I can't believe I'm playing Painted Black on a bridge of the Enterprise. But anyways, for you guys here. Feel free to sing it along.
There's a red door and I
Want to paint it black.
no other
Not yet.
if I just sit there summer close.
You know more of it than I, please.
We're getting in the middle part.
Girls and birds just in their summer coats. I had to turn my head until my darkness goes. There we go.
Okay, gentlemen.
Pretty good song. Love it.
I'll do the whole thing. In the conclusion. A little classical version of it. I'm sorry, just a note there. I haven't done that in a while, but that's like a classical version of Painted Black.
That is beautiful. In some ways, it exceeds the original.
Sure.
Those are my own versions of those songs. Actually, I told Scott, I trained for a whole year when I was first learning those techniques to be able to take any popular song and make it sound like classical music.
Ah.
I had a pretty good piano teacher.
So, may I make a request?
Sure, if I know it.
This shouldn't be too difficult. Leonard Bernstein, I feel pretty.
Oh,
I'm
my goodness.
Pretty. I feel pretty and witty and bright.
You know, I don't know that
pretty.
one well enough.
Ah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, let me make it up to you. Let me do my version of Wrecking Ball.
Very.
Recognize it?
Yeah.
And here's the main part. I'll stop right there. Yeah, cool.
Asaph, where did you learn to play the piano? How
Well,
did this happen?
all right, this is going to sound really strange because I wrote about this in my autobiography. I come from a military family. And my father used to drink vodka. I don't know if you know what vodka and gin and all that stuff. I don't endorse that, okay? I'm just telling you to answer your question.
Our lips are virgin.
Yeah. Anyway, he used to, we just got back from Taipei, Taiwan overseas, so he was stationed at Langley Air Force Base in Hampton, Virginia, and we lived in these big high-rise building like the Jeffersons. I don't know if you know that show or not. It was this big high-rise building Air Force families lived. And so my father would be drinking gin in the morning, and he'd always leave the house and come home with something brand new, like a toaster, or curtains, sheets, pillows, whatever. And he used to frustrate my mother. There he goes, bringing stuff home again. So one morning he was really feeling good. He left the house and he came home with a brand new piano. We're not talking used. He had it shipped over to the high-rise building, and oh, my mom cried. She's like, "Oh, what are we gonna do with this piano?" I mean, it was like shiny, brand new. Because my father wasn't like a millionaire, but he was very comfortable, because of his position in the Air Force and stuff. And he brought this brand new piano home. I don't even think he remembered he bought it, and that's how the whole thing started. I was like 9 or 10, something like that, when that happened. And my mother was too poor to have the piano taken back, so she started dusting it off, and I started messing around with it. And then 2 years later, when we moved to Sacramento, I got formal training. That's how the whole thing started. They say the Lord works in mysterious ways. That's a strange way to get a piano. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
It is.
That
So
is-
Father drinking gin. That's a true story. Drinking gin, walk home, come home with a brand new piano.
That's funny.
And when did you move to Missoula?
I moved here 10 years ago. Well, I had been in Montana before that. I played the piano professionally 12 years in Billings. I played at the Billings Hotel and Yellowstone Art Museum and the Deaconess Hospital at the time. They had this grand piano in the cafe, and they had me there 5 days a week and things like that. So I've been playing a lot and a lot of other events in Billings. And 10 years ago, I moved here to Missoula. It was more fun here, I think. Well, because you can do things like get on the bridge of the Enterprise here.
Indeed. Indeed. And actually, how far in orbit are we? About a mile above the Earth?
I don't know. Anybody want to look that up on a computer? You
I'd
gotta.
say at least a couple miles.
Computer, how far are we from
I don't know.
surface?
Where's data?
All right.
That's
let me,
that's 100 years from now.
all right. Let me play this song. See if any of you would know this one here.
soundtrack.
Yeah, that's the theme to Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
I'll do it again. You recognize that?
Yeah.
Now do you recognize it?
Yeah.
I've only watched the original series, The Next Generation. That's why
Okay.
it was lost. It was lost on me. That's why.
All right, let's talk about the history of Star Trek. Are you guys aware that there were 2 pilots? to
I
this?
was. I've seen that too.
Yeah, there were 2
Called
pilots.
the Menagerie or the Cage.
Well, it was called The Cage, and the actor that played the captain was not William Shatner. His name was Jeffrey Hunter. He was a famous movie star. And see, back in those days, television came out around the early 50s. Prior to that, it was movies, like you watch a Clark Gable movie or John Wayne or William Holden or somebody like that. And they had like a limited audience because you had to pay to see these people. And then television came out, and it was free. So the movie execs were freaking out because they're like, oh man, these people are going to get to watch these stars for free instead of paying to go to the movies. It was a big controversy when TV came out, you know how that is. But a lot of the actors were uncomfortable with going on television, and so were the executives like Paramount and so on. And there were a handful of comedians like, you probably won't know them, Milton Berle, famous comedian, Sid Caesar. I don't know if you know these comedians from the past. They had the foresight to get on television because they were seen by millions of people, see. And a lot of the movie executives were telling their movie stars not to go on television, so there were just a handful that would. And when they got on TV, their name was catapulted more than the movies ever did at that time. And of course now it's changed because we have these cell phones and we have YouTube and we have Snapchat and all that stuff, but there was no such thing as it back then.
Yeah.
So that's just, but getting back to the history of this here, in 1964, I believe it was, they had an episode called The Cage, and that was considered a little bit too controversial for the time. You know, they had a different standard back then.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't even say the word pregnant on television back then. And now you watch Law and Order, and everybody's like hopping in the sack or what have you, but back then, they weren't doing that sort of stuff. It was like clean stuff like the Dick Van Dyke Show and Leave It to Beaver. I don't know if you know these shows or not.
Yeah.
But they were kind of like family shows. But anyway, getting back to Star Trek, what was interesting about this pilot, they had a bunch of westerns in those years, like The Rifleman. I don't know if you know those shows or not, or Gunsmoke. You know, they were just all westerns. All the networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, they had westerns. So when Star Trek came out, Gene Roddenberry didn't want to do a western in space. You know, that would have been really corny when you think about it. So what he decided to do was just write some good drama, like stuff that was relevant for the time, like racial issues and civil rights, racial. It's tame compared to today, of course. Or like see the cast, how they have like people from different nationalities and stuff. You might say, like Chekhov being Asian, and Sulu being Asian, Chekhov Russian, and so on. That was kind of new then, and that's why it worked. So when they had this new pilot with Star Trek, even though it had a different actor, as I stated, NBC liked the show. They just didn't like the pilot. So they told Gene Roddenberry, we're going to give you a second chance and give us a good pilot. So this time they got Spock, and they got McCoy. I don't know if he's in this picture. Yeah, there he is. I'm kind of blocking him there. And then it was a hit.
Yes.
And since this came out, I think they've done like 10 Star Trek movies, and they've done like Deep Space Nine, like I played. They had the Next Generation, and they had Voyager. I don't know if you're familiar with Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah.
First female captain.
Voyager was great.
Yeah. So that just kind of gives you an idea. I'll play some of the Voyager. See if you recognize it. Recognize it? Recognize it?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
There you go, a short version of that.
But didn't Roddenberry sell the idea of Star Trek to the producers by saying it'd be like a Western in space? And then
Yeah,
they
but
realized...
see, he didn't want that. He didn't want
Yes.
to shoot him up John Wayne in space with
Yes.
lasers. That's very corny. That wouldn't work.
Yes.
Now, I assume you guys have seen all these episodes of Star Trek, right?
I've seen all the original episodes.
Did you see the one when we were talking about civil rights? You remember the episode with the two creatures that were half black?
Yes,
half
let
white?
this be
You
your
remember that
last
one?
battlefield. That was the name of
Yeah.
it.
Did
Wonderful
you notice
episode.
that the ones that were black on the left side disliked the ones that were black on the right side? Remember that episode?
Yes, it was
They were half and half and half.
one of my
Black
favorite
and white.
ones. It was really moving.
Yeah, well, that got a special science fiction award too, and it
Oh.
dealt with racism. Because remember, at the end of that episode, they wiped out their whole civilization because they couldn't get past their hatred.
Wow.
And that was the concept of that episode. And then they had one. The first interracial kiss was on Star Trek too, but it wasn't a romantic kiss.
Just a kiss.
Yeah, they were on this planet. I can't remember the name of the
The
episode.
Plato stepchildren.
That's it.
Yes.
Their stepchildren. Yeah, and they had those people that had these powers that force you to do things that they want you to do. But if they had a little cut because of their advancement, they would die very quickly. So McCoy saves the life of the president or the leader of that planet. So he decides he's going to hijack McCoy and make him stay. So Kirk obviously is going to resist. So he forces Captain Kirk and Uhura to kiss. But if you look at the scene, Captain Kirk's eyes were open as he lowers her down like that. See, so it didn't look romantic on screen. But that was the first interracial kiss in the 60s. And of course, Gene Roddenberry knew what he was doing, introducing that. He had to be there. Because see, when I was a kid, and this is going to sound crazy, when I was a kid, they literally had drinking fountains that said coloreds
Yeah.
and whites. I'm old enough to remember that. And I know that might seem kind of strange from your point of view, but that's just the way it was in this country. If you were a black person, you couldn't look at a white woman without being lynched in real life. They were just really sensitive. So Gene Roddenberry was able to tap into that to get the world to see how stupid racism is, or how stupid.
And he was a courageous man for doing that. And he
Yeah,
served our
and
society.
and a lot of people thought that the sponsors would pull back from Star Trek, but they didn't, because his message came out, and that's why Star Trek was so groundbreaking then as it is today, or relevant if you know what I mean. It just having this John Wayne, okay, Pilgrim, that just would have flopped. But he tackled the issues of the 60s with taste and tact, and it worked. But it's hard for you guys to imagine. You just had to be there, is the
Yeah.
way to describe it. Can you imagine that?
No.
It's
Literally.
horrific to imagine.
Yeah, that's the way it was. Because I was born in 1958, so during that whole civil rights thing, I was old enough as a child to know. And my father used to literally, as a boy, hide under the bed from the Ku Klux Klan. Can you imagine that? And then, of course, by the time the civil rights movement came out, the African Americans like, you bring them Klan people here, we're gonna kill them. They start fighting back, and they had this thing on the world news about maybe about 20 years ago. They used to have these Klan meetings and stuff. We're gonna send you guys back to Africa, or something like that, some crazy thing like that, right? And they went into this ghetto neighborhood, where like really gangsta style, and they had these young African Americans standing like this. And this was on the world news on ABC, and the police were like in the middle, and they were like, we don't want to get involved in this. And the Klan was over here, and this one young, he probably about you guys' age, this one African American fellow standing like this. He had that Tupac look, and he just leaped and pulled one of those guys by his sheet, and they pulled him into that crowd. And they start pouncing on this guy and stopping this guy. And then he tried to get away with the sheet. They grabbed the sheet, pulled him back, and the police didn't do anything to stop it because they really didn't want to get involved. And I don't know what neighborhood. I want to say Compton, but it was one of those rough neighborhoods. But see, the point I'm going with this is times have changed. People don't want to be oppressed like that. They don't want to live that way. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't make any difference what your nationality is or your background or whatever. It shouldn't matter. I learned that when we were in Taiwan, because we used to go to Monday night football games, and I used to go with my parents. And then it'd be like one of those Richard Gere movies after the football game. Everybody would be in this smoky room, and my father would be playing cards. And it'd be like, you know, the Chinese folks, they'd be dealing cards in the smoky room and the whole setup. They weren't thinking color, they were thinking green. They were like, okay, let's see how much money we can get for this American. And it was just fun. Well, they were gambling, but that's the way it was then. I don't know how I got off on that. Okay, let's talk about Star Trek. Do you have a favorite Star Trek episode?
I can't think of one right now. Man.
What about you? You have a favorite Star Trek episode?
I'm trying to think.
I'll do that again.
I can't remember if... I think there was one where they're in a holodeck. Oh, yeah, it was the Voyager. And they were in the... Or not the holodeck. They were using this technology where they would go into this black and white area, and they were fighting this robot. And I'm pretty sure it was the holodeck. I can't remember them.
Which show, though? The Next Generation?
Voyager.
Oh, Voyager, good.
Yeah, and so, what's the actress who played the captain?
Stop there. Let's see if I can remember. Kate something. I know who you're talking about. I can't think of her name.
I can't remember either.
Here's some trivia about that actress. She was the Mrs. Columbo in the Columbo series.
Oh,
Are you familiar with Columbo with Peter Falk?
I may have seen...
Well, the actress that played Captain Janeway, she was Mrs. Columbo. They didn't show her till the end of the Columbo series.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because, you know, if you watch Columbo, he would always say Mrs. Columbo, and you never knew who this actress was, or who Mrs. Columbo was throughout the whole series, and they brought her out at the end. So, just a piece of trivia there.
That's funny.
Now, what about you? You have a favorite Star Trek episode?
The one that I'm thinking about right now.
My personal
original-
favorite is the Doomsday Machine. Remember that one? That big cone in space that
Yes.
8 planets?
Yes. Oh, yes.
And it wiped out the crew of the Constellation. So the captain was a sole survivor. And he was kind of mentally off because he was obsessed with killing this thing. And he hijacks the Enterprise and orders them to go attack it.
Ah, yes.
You remember that scene? And then, of course, he ends his life out of guilt for survivor's guilt, they call it. And by his ending his life, that's how Captain Kirk and Spock were able to figure out how to stop that thing. So when they destroyed the Doomsday Machine, they just said that Captain Decker died in the line of duty. So
Yes.
that's kind of a neat. You have a favorite Star Trek episode?
A lot of them's been wiped because it's been a while since I've watched Star Trek, but I remember one specific one where it was like this kind of parasitic, like something was frozen.
Oh,
Frozen,
was that the
touched
one when
this.
they went back in time for the first time?
I'm not quite sure.
They had it was an episode where Spock and this one guy was on this frozen planet, wasn't it? Like Frozen Planet? And the one guy takes his glove off and scratches his nose and then this little piece of
It was a
blood.
water
Yeah.
molecule, and then
Yeah, is that the episode you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's the one that I
And they
remember
cause them to
most.
get drunk or something.
Yeah, they go
that.
like.
Yeah, I remember that
Do
episode.
you remember the one where they go to this planet and there's a gate and it's a sentient machine and then they go back in time to the Depression?
Oh yes, I remember that
That-
episode. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know who that actress was? That was William Shatner's love interest when he went back in time. Do you know who she?
No, tell me.
That was a young Joan Collins.
Oh.
I don't know if you know who Joan Collins was. She'd probably be best remembered for a TV show called Dynasty. She played this bitchy character. Is the way to describe it.
Can you say that on Impact?
Well, I think you can on this show, my show. If they look at it on the context, but she was like this really nasty lady, just like really ritzy rich and just mess with people. That's how rich folks are, at least on TV. They mess with people. You're poor, I'm rich, I can control you.
And do you remember that episode where they go to, it's called This Side of Paradise. They go to a planet, and there's a plant with a special pollen that puts people...
Oh, that's
and
right,
Spock-
the one where Spock falls in love,
And he
yeah.
finds his emotions.
Yeah, that was a good one, yeah.
Yes, I'd say those two are probably my favorites.
Trivia, do you know who the actress was that was Spock's girlfriend?
No, I don't.
She was married to an actor named Charles Bronson. I don't know if you know. He was like this vigilante actor.
Oh.
You know, he did the Death Wish movies. Her name was Jill Ireland. That was her name. She was married to Charles Bronson. I don't know if you've seen any of those Death Wish movies at all. They're sort of like Stallone's Terminator, but not quite to that degree. See, Bronson's character, he lived in they always live in New York, you know. I don't know why, but they do. And he just witnesses like some of his family members being killed and people in the streets being killed. He's like, I'm gonna put a stop to this because the cops aren't doing anything. And he gets his big bazooka like, what's that actor? The Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, Clint
He's one of those. And he goes out and starts cleaning out the streets. And the police can't stop him because they don't know it's him doing it. So he does it in such a way where he cleans up the streets and they don't know it's him. And he's like wasting folks. He's like taking little pea shooters, get these bazooka guns. They always get these bazooka guns, like, and they're like. Well, anyway, that was Jill Ireland on that Star Trek episode. She was a famous movie star too. So didn't know if you knew that. All right, let's try this here. See if you know this.
We
one
most
here.
certainly didn't know that.
Well,
so we thank you.
This is trivia. Try this here.
Oh.
It was Law and Order.
Yeah, it sounded like Law and Order. Yeah, it's Law and Order.
Yeah.
Yeah, Law and
Yes, that's what I thought too. I wasn't sure though. You were the first one with the courage to guess.
Law and Order. Yeah, I recognize
All right, which Law and Order is it? Do you know? There's so many Law and Orders. Let's
Yeah,
get
like
specific
Law
like
and
Jeopardy.
Order.
It's the SVU one. The
Yeah,
Law-
special.
Special Victims Unit.
Special. Yeah, right. That's what I thought it was.
And you know what, guys? 30 minutes have already gone by. See how quickly this goes?
It does
Yeah,
go
it
quickly.
does go.
Yeah, see, when you do the show. So, anytime you guys want to do this show in the future, you get the itch. Have fun. I'm going to make you guys a DVD version of this, and I'm going to post this on YouTube. I'm going to post it on Facebook so your friends can see you there.
Thank you.
And let's see. Do you have any final words you want to say?
It's been an honor being on this show.
Well, that's the thing with this show. I've been doing this show for 3 years, and you know, lately we've just been putting ourselves on backdrops like the show. And how this whole thing started, you probably won't know him, Chuck Barris. He was a host of a show called The Gong Show. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Well, anyway,
Like,
it was
were they
like
just-
it was sort of like The Voice, but just a primitive version of The Voice. And what they did, they had these Chinese gongs on the wall as a backdrop, and a movie star of the time would sit in front of a gong. And then they had these hammers. And so when the musical act came out, if they liked you, they'd score points like The Voice. And if they didn't, they'd hit the gong behind them. And then this guy would come up with this big hook and take you off stage. It's very primitive. See, we're talking a long time ago. Anyway, Chuck Barris was the host of that show. When he died, Emmett and I did a tribute to him, and we put ourselves on the Gong Show. That's how this whole thing started with the backdrops, and then of course the rest is history. Like you guys are on Star Trek on the bridge of the Enterprise, which we haven't done. And but as far as the format of the show, it's the same. People just talk to me about whatever. So I hope you guys had fun. I know this is a short version of Asaph Cafe, and this be good for your MCAT experience, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, you
Definitely.
can take the link, show it to your friends in high school, and you're gonna get a DVD, and just feel free. It's free game.
Thank you, Asa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final words you want to say, young man? Okay. Can they see your Vulcan sign there? There you go.
Live long and prosper.
There you go. All right, that's a good way to quit. And you? Any final words? I will make a final end.
Science fiction. Check it out.
Yes,
Check
thank you.
it
All
out.
right, let me make sure I got this right, and then we'll say goodbye. You're Joshua, right?
Indeed.
This is Joshua Hall here. He's guest on this version of Asaph Cafe. And then we have Jack Catmull, Tristin Redearth, and Rowan. And I didn't write your last name, so you can introduce
Rowan
yourself.
Lemus. Yeah.
Pardon?
Rowan Lemus.
There you go.
And for parting,
All right,
for some parting words, I'll say that although we live in trying times, let us remember the spirit of Star Trek, which was hope for the future,
there you go.
enthusiasm.
Well, I want to wish all four of you guys all the best in what you do, especially what you're going to get into. That's pretty
Thank you.
cool. Thanks for speaking that Arabic, right? Arabic on the show?
Yes.
I tell you what, I'll let you sign us off in Arabic, and then I'll say goodbye after you. How about that?
How about some Persian?
All right, Persian then.
Yes.
Go ahead and sign us off in Persian.
Yari and dar kas nemibinim yaran ra cheshod.
Good. All right. Well, thanks for watching this. You want to tell us what you said, or
Yes, friends should now and none I see. What climb are friends gone to?
good?
A bit of Hafez. That's a melancholy poem. I apologize.
It's all right. No, it's an impromptu
Uh,
show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Asaph, and we're here with the gang from MCAT here, and we're on the bridge of the Enterprise with the whole crew. So until our next show, Maranatha. I always freeze when I go. You guys just freeze right there. I'll shut everything down, and thanks for being part of the show.